Well, coming up at 8 o'clock on SABC News is Face the Nation. And tonight, Oliver Dickson stepping in for Clement Manyatela. Oliver, a busy news day. What are you looking at today with everything that's been going on?
You know, Tembe, we actually took a look at 5 big stories that in the news cycle at the moment. But of course, we have the limitation of time, so we couldn't touch on all of those. But really important, I think this is the big story of the week, and that is the first national convention taking place this week. We're going to be speaking to one of the organizing committee member, Anzio Jacobs. An interesting development here is that the interministerial committee that is chaired by the Deputy President Paul Mashatile had met today. In fact, they're currently still in a meeting that we're told will run up until 9 p.m. this evening. We're going to be speaking to them about their state of readiness, but of course pertaining to some of the controversies around it. We've been told what the budgetary breakdown looks like, but do they have any real concrete commitments from the private sector and civil society as they hope they would have to make this financially viable? We're going to get some sense of that tonight. And then a big development around the SACP rejecting the ANC's ultimatum that should the SACP ultimately contest the ANC in election, which, by the way, wouldn't be the first time they've done that. You would recall in Metsimaholo, the SACP had contested against the ANC in that by-election, and they picked up a couple of seats. I mean, that didn't last particularly long because that council was later dissolved. But we're going to be talking about that because the ANC had given the SACP an ultimatum, and the SACP is now rejecting that. Samgele Maseko had a very interesting conversation with the National Union of Metal Workers earlier, NUM, and that development there around the mine workers is that they're going to be throwing their weight around behind the ANC and not the SACP. We're going to be speaking to Mbulelo Mandlana, who's the spokesperson of the SACP, and then Ibrahim Fakir is going to be joining us on what seems to be the radioactive conversation this week, and that's pertaining Gayton McKenzie. There's a broader, more universal question that needs to be answered, and that is pertaining to the racial status, not the ethnic status, the racial status of colored people in South Africa, and of course the implication thereof is, are they able to use certain words that we consider to be pejoratives? Importantly, Gayton McKenzie is in trouble for having repeatedly used the K word, not particularly as a pejorative, but just his use. Of course, he's been reported to multiple bodies, including the South African Human Rights Commission. We're going to be speaking to Ibrahim Fakir to cut through the noise of it all and ask the more pertinent question here. Does language like that have a place in South Africa's body politic and in our political lexicon? And then more importantly, is Gayton McKenzie on the wrong side here, and should he be fired?
So that's coming up on Face the Nation with Clement Manyatela, minus the beard. I'm kidding. Oliver Dickson sitting in for Clement from 8 o'clock tonight. But still a great show guaranteed between 8 and 9 p.m. That is Face the Nation.